Okay. Who? Oh, Hudson.
I haven't had the opportunity really to thank everybody for the cards and the gifts that have been given from people that were able to attend Ashley's service, and those that didn't attend still showed up with cards and cash and checks. And I just want to thank you, Dr. John. I got yours yesterday. Thank you very much. In Christ we pray. Amen.
To do it, you continue in our prayers.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm looking up a verse. I'm looking up a verse here. Thought we'd keep this biblical. You know, when we talk about groups, you know, I'd mentioned, you know, like in Galatians, you know, Paul talked about the Judaizers, but he also talked about, you know, when people come with a different gospel and all that. He says, even if it was from me, I wanted to read that verse, but we're reading in Revelation in the letters to the 7 churches in chapters 2 and 3 about the people that Jesus calls out and tells the church either to stay away from, stand strong against, or he says, you idiots, you have fallen to them, you've come under their spell or whatever. So I think it's important to talk, well, how do we relate that to modern day? And the only reason, like, you know, some of these groups that I would call out is only because they call themselves Christians, of which they are not. You know, somebody wants to be, you know, the church of, you know, Lake Havasu fish or something like that. And, you know, we worship the fish in Lake Havasu. That's fine with me. I mean, they're still lost and they still need to hear the gospel. But the ones that have come up with these different teachings and still call themselves Christians, because they fool us. But I want to read in, you know, I had it written down, but I didn't bring it with me. I think it's in Galatians 8 or Galatians 1 in verse 8 and 9. He says, but even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. As we have said, now this is the funny part that he thinks it's just more, because in the next verse now he's going to repeat it. He says in verse 9, he says, as we have said before, so now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. I take that as, you know, if the Bible's going to tell us that if you do something, you're going to be accursed, and they tell you 2 times in a row in 2 verses, that's probably
it might be important.
Might be important. So we get to this. Wait, it's recording me. Hang on. Okay, so you know, so here's the Book of Mormon, and it says another testament of Jesus Christ. That's like saying another gospel of Jesus Christ. You know, so and when you ask, you know, when Joseph Smith gives his testimony, he talks about not just that, you know, he found a book and was, he says an angel came to him and gave this to him.
You just read, not even from angels.
Yeah, he said, well, and Paul says, even if I come back to you and give you a different gospel, don't believe me. I was right the first time, I'm crazy the second time. You know? So this is the issue with, you know, the issue with the you know, with the Mormons. Now, I want to be charitable with them. I mean, these people are great people, you know. I think that they're deceived, but they're great people. They do great works and stuff like that. And this has just been so embedded to them for so long that, I mean, how many of us, I'll say us instead of you, no, how many of us believe our religion because we've investigated it? It's not just the religion of our parents, so we carry it on, you know, because that's what happens, is that people just carry on religion. Why are you a Christian? Because my parents were Christian. I was raised a Christian, you know, and it doesn't go any further than I investigated it and I decided that it's true, you know, like that. And so that's where I think we are with a lot of the any of the people, the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever, is that they're well trained in what the church teaches. I wish that, I wish we were as well trained as, as they were. But a lot of the things I've gotten here, I've taken right off their website. So it's not like I'm going to anti-Mormon literature and stuff like that, because that can get pretty brutal. They may be 100% right, but it gets kind of brutal when you can look and find it in their own literature. So on the one sheet that says Mormonism, I just wanted to talk about, we're supposed to have the meeting today, so that was going to abbreviate some of the, time. So I want to talk about Mormon. Maybe next month, if we don't get into it today, we'll get into, but it has to be next month, well, the next meeting, or not this one, but the next one. I guess it could be next one too, since we have a meeting. I don't want to get too far off, but anyway, is what they teach that's different. But on that one, I've got the official name is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now they've always been called Mormons, and they always wanted to be called Mormons until recently, because now they're trying to fit in to be recognized as a Christian church. Before, it wasn't that important to them, because their thought, and we'll see this later on, is they think we're all wrong. They won't tell you that to your face nowadays. Now what they say is, yeah, we're Christian just like you. But before, they used to say all the churches are wrong. That's part of Joseph Smith's testimony, which I have here. You can get all this stuff, man. So you don't have to go to you don't have to go to the anti-Mormon people or whatever. Joseph Smith's testimony is he saw all the differences in the churches, and he wanted to know which one was right. And so, I think I've got this in here somewhere, but he read in James, if you have a question, ask God. So he said, which is pretty wise. I mean, most of us don't do that, So he said he asked God. He went out in the wilderness and he asked God, and he said, I got this problem. These churches are different. Which church is the right church? Which church should I join? And God said, were you going to say something, Morgan?
No.
Oh, anyway. And God said, don't join any of them. They're all wrong. So, and that's part of his testimony, is that all the Christian church is wrong. Like that. But like I say, but lately they've been trying to really get into like their normal Christian, and most people think they are, because they don't know, because they got Jesus Christ in their name. So anybody have experience with Mormons or Mormons in your family? You have Mormons in your family, don't you?
Yeah, I have three sisters, and they're all just, each one's 3 years. We're all separated by 3 years. So we all went to parochial school, and my sister Colleen married a Mormon fella in the Lutheran church. A couple of years after they were married, of course, young people have financial difficulties, knocks on the door, and the Mormons are willing to help. Well, to make a longer story short, she's been a devout Mormon. My nephews have all done their mission. She's got 25 great-grandchildren. The majority of her grandchildren had served on a mission. Her and my brother-in-law served in a senior mission in Washington, D.C. for 18 months, administering the missionaries in that particular area. We really don't discuss the differences. It keeps the family good. My brother-in-law keeps his little booklet in his pocket and makes his notes. I've seen him writing the notes when we've been together. Great, he's a great guy.
He's
We
writing
have a
down
wonderful
Lowell's
relationship.
Going to hell.
And they celebrate all the Christian holidays. I never heard them say that they don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. I just said we believe in the Trinity. Okay, that's it.
They believe Jesus is the Son of God. They just don't believe
Yeah,
he's
they
God's
don't
son.
believe.
Yeah. Dr. John, were you going to say something?
I have a first cousin who married into the Mormon church through his wife, and is a devout Mormon and very active. We have visited a number of times. Initially, they lived in Prescott. And so when we were in Havasu, he would come at least once during the time we were there to stay with us and do things. And he would bring his Bible, and he always talked about sweet Jesus. But he didn't know his Bible very well. And I showed him a number of passages that, like Ephesians 2:8-9, about we are saved by grace through faith and not by works. And so now he's moved to Texas, so I've not had any recent contact with him.
You chased him away, huh? Yeah. And Mormons are just like any other people. You have those that are fully knowledgeable in what you're doing, and you have those that are just, they're pretty much culturally Mormon. They may be more than the Christmas, Easter kind and stuff like that, but they just, again, this is with Lutherans too. I'm born and raised a Lutheran. I went to catechism. I got confirmed. They gave me the certificate that said I was done. So I've been done.
I thought I'd maybe share one more thing. My niece, when she got married, and we live in the Bay Area, in the East Bay. So the wedding is at the Mormon Tabernacle up in the Oakland Hills. It's got the golden spire. And so we get on our Sunday finest, and we all show up, my sisters, my other sisters, and nieces and nephews, my kids. So we get up to the tabernacle, and we got to stand outside.
Yeah.
We can't go in the tabernacle because they're getting married. So we stand outside during whatever transpired and throw rice when they came out.
Yeah.
But so you're welcome to come, but you can't go in the tabernacle.
I don't begrudge them any of their practices and stuff like that, because Christians have weird practices too. And, like that. But the parts that are, and this is one of our differences, is because they believe in the upcoming deification of people. You do it right, you become a god in Mormonism. Yeah.
Lyda and I, we had recommitted back to Jesus, and we were on fire, and these two young gentlemen come to the door and said, they want to tell us about this. And I said, oh, Mormons, okay. Yeah, we have a tape on that. You want to come in and listen to it? It was Walter Martin's thing about cults.
Yeah.
So we played the whole tape.
Oh, they listened to it. Good,
And
good for them.
The helper really listened because they're the rookie.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping we put some doubt in them.
The one difference between Mormon, well, I shouldn't say the one difference, but a big difference between Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses. Mormons will talk to you. Mormons will come in your house. If you want to present something to them, they'll listen. It may go in one ear, out the other. Jehovah's Witnesses won't. They won't accept anything. They won't accept literature from you. If they accept anything to be polite, they throw it away right away. They don't. There is that big. And I talked before about. I used to, for several years when I was in my 30s. I used to debate a Mormon every Wednesday night from like 7 o'clock at night until midnight. And we would prepare. Well, in my Book of Mormon, I have yellow highlights in here and notes and stuff like that. But they'll talk to you, and they'll debate with you. And, if you want to stand on the front porch for 2 hours talking to them, they'll talk to you. Jehovah's Witness will size you up pretty quick and say, yep, gotta go. Deacon Dennis.
Yeah, we had friends from Idaho who were Mormon. They'd come and visit my wife and I at our home in Big River, California, every year, spent about a week with us, and fine people. Just you couldn't meet finer people. And one day he hurt his foot, so he was kind of hobbling around. He said, "Would you go to the motorhome, please, and get me my book? It's my little blue notebook. It's on the dash on the passenger side." So I did, and it said my deeds book, good deeds book, and it was I asked him about it, and he says, "Yeah," he said, "I keep a daily log, if you will,
Yeah.
about my good deeds." And he says, "So I can go back and what day did I help that guy change a tire? What day did I help them do this? What day did I do that?" And I said, "Well, that's interesting." I said, Does this then get to qualified? He says, yeah, you submit this to the apostles. If you want, he was at the level to where he was qualified to be an apostle. But they went on a senior mission to Florida instead, he and his wife. And I said, well, hey, you can get some fishing in there. They said, oh no, we don't go near the water. We don't like the water because that's the devil. The devil controls the water. And I said, okie dokie, but you're going to be on a lake down there. And he said, yeah, we may be cast in, but we ain't going out on a boat. It's just really, really fine people. But that was really kind of twisted.
Particular piety and legalism. I don't know that the church requires them to, to keep a list or, because again, Lutherans will do the same things. You come up with our own particular piety that makes me feel more holy because I do want to please.
But Lutherans don't go out on missions not paid for by someone else.
Well, that's a different story. Lutherans don't go out on missions.
They pay their own.
We'll get into that too, Pastor.
When I was visiting as I go and visit our daughter, grandson in Phoenix area, it seems like there's a Mormon church, like they're laid out in 1 mile block, every block. They're cookie cutters. And if they just sold farmland for housing development, there's already a Mormon church there.
Yeah.
So they're everywhere.
They
In
have a
Phoenix,
large-
here there's only one.
Big temple down Chandler, I think it is, Gilbert or Chandler, there's a big Mormon temple, there. You got to remember, because we're kind of like Utah, that whole area together.
You can track them. You can track them geographically from Utah on down into Arizona via a couple of the small towns too. There's Snowflake, and Snowflake is almost all Mormon. But that was one of their base quarters, the headquarters there. But they've come all the way down, and Phoenix has a huge population of Mormons. And I heard I think I mentioned this here or Sunday, but one of their leaders, one of the apostles, apparently said, and we Christians here in Phoenix, we do that. They call themselves Christians. That they feel that's quite important that people would perhaps see them as Christians. That's a big thing for them. We Christians here feel differently.
Yeah, were you going to say something, Pastor Kelly?
One day I came home from Bible study, and there were 2 Mormons waiting for me by the door when I left the car in the garage. So we talked for quite a while. I talked about what Christ meant to me and everything. And I said, "What's happening in your life?" He said, "I'm on my way to becoming perfect."
Yeah.
And of course, I told him the only one that's ever been perfect is Jesus. And so I had a chance to talk to him about Christ himself.
Yeah.
But they believe that by their own efforts and where they.
We'll get into that when we talk about what our theological differences, are not, because they are on pretty heavy issues and all that. Were you going to say something, Jerry?
Yes, my daughter was a Mormon for many, many years in her family. And of course, like Lowell says, we couldn't go to their wedding. We had to wait outside and go to the other side when they came out the other end. But anyway, after that, they had 3 boys. And the oldest boy, they wait till they're 11 or 12 years old before they get baptized. And it's immersion. So we got invited to go to that. Of course, my wife, she was really upset about this anyway. But anyway, we go there and they dunk him and his arm comes up and they say, "Oh my gosh, it didn't take. It's got to be a full immersion." So they grabbed his arm.
Baptists are like that.
So they had to do it again. Yep.
Anyway, let's move on a little bit. So Joseph Smith, you guys probably all know this kind of stuff. He was the founder of the religion. Again, I told the story. He was trying to figure out what was what. He was like 15 years old at the time. Had the encounter with later on with the angel Moroni, and we'll get into that stuff later. But he was the founder. Let's see. I've got here. So the current leader, his name's Russell Nelson. This guy's 98 years old. One thing I found out, there's been 17 presidents. I looked this up. There's been 17 presidents. If you're the president of the Mormon church, there's the 12 apostles and one becomes the first president, that holds the office of the first presidency. Okay. But when you get that, you die in office. every single one of them died in office. You know, it's not like you go, you know, I'm 90 years old. I think I want to take a break, you know, like that. No, you die in office. And then somebody out of that, the Council of 12, the one who's the most senior, then becomes the next, you know, the next president. So, see, they don't do like we Lutherans do and go have conventions every 3 years and vote for somebody, you know, that nobody knows who it is except for, you know, 100 people in the synod, you know. Okay. So, let's see, I got in the notes. So each man possessed unique talents and gifts that helped the church progress during that time and set up the stage for future growth. Again, this is off their website. You know, I get this information. It says the first church president, Joseph Smith, received authority to lead the church from John the Baptist and from 3 of Christ's apostles, Peter, James, and John, who received the same power and authority from Jesus Christ himself. These men appeared as angels and bestowed the priesthood upon Joseph Smith. That same priesthood was subsequently passed down in an unbroken chain to the present day to the current church president, Russell M. Nelson. And I've watched some videos from Russell Nelson, and he seems like a nice guy. He seems to know his Mormon theology. He seems to put, you know, the church first as far as his, you know, his being goes, that he wants the church to grow and he wants the people to be, you know, happy and good Mormons and stuff like that. You know, he's not like a Jim Jones, you know, because you get leaders like that on these, you know, on these religious groups and stuff like that, that if things don't go his way, you got to drink the Kool-Aid and, you know. So I think that all these guys have been honorable people in doing their best to lead the church in the direction that they feel, you know, led to do. Their headquarters are in Salt Lake City, Utah. You know, they began in New York. Roger. Do your
I just
microphone,
have
yeah.
to comment, you know, this might be out of the way, but I have to say in my heart, this Joseph Smith was the biggest con man in history. Either that or he was on some kind of hallucinogen in order to be able to see angels who claimed to be John the Baptist and Peter, James, and John. Come on, man.
You know, I mean, believe me, I'm not going to defend the guy, but by the same token, that's his story and he's sticking to it. Yeah.
And look at all the people. 17 million people believe this guy. Come on.
He ran for
Well,
president.
again, let's at least be charitable. I mean, they don't hold him up as a con man. I mean, how many of us saw the movie of Joseph Smith with Vincent Price that was made like in the 50s? You know, there he was kind of like a bad guy cowboy, you know, like that. And he did die in a gunfight, you know, in jail, you know. Yeah. But anyway, it was but you know what? Hey, every church has scoundrels that have been its leaders at times. And pardon? Yeah. No. You know, so that's not that. Anyway, but they began in New York, you know. In fact, all of these groups began in that New York, Pennsylvania area, kind of moving up into New England some. We better watch out for that guy back there. He was from Pennsylvania. But no, but they began there. They all did. It was in that New York area. It was called the burned out district because there were so many of these cult leaders. There were people starting new religions. Jehovah's Witness started there. Mormons started there. Seventh-day Adventists started there. Church of Christ, not Church of Christ.
Jesus Christ scientists.
Scientists, yeah, right. Yeah, Christian scientists. You know, so they all started there and they all kept coming to that area. And by the time the real Christians got there, people were just burned out on all these groups. That's why they call it the burned out district.
Good description of New York at the time, no different than today, right?
Anyway, so they moved out and they ended up in Illinois, I think it was. They were going to want to say they're going to St. Joseph, Missouri, something like that. They were heading there, but in Illinois is when Joseph Smith got killed. They went to Missouri, but I think they got kicked out of Illinois, they got kicked out of Missouri, and they ended up in Utah because there was nobody there to kick them out. You know, there was nobody there. So that's how they ended up in, you know, in Utah. But I think that I should have read up on this more, but I think I used to know. I think that Zion was in Missouri. I think St. Joseph, Missouri was Zion. That was the new holy, you know, the new holy land, you know, like that. But they got kicked, you know, they got kicked out. So anyway, so their headquarters is in Utah. They have 17 million. Remember that note I have should have said 1231 of 22. I looked that up, but I typed it wrong. Like that. Now here's the thing. Oh, it's 17 million people. That's a lot of people. You know, Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, we have just less than 2 million people. The ELCA, they used to have 7 million. I don't think they have that many anymore. You know, Wells and the ELC, and you add up all the groups, you know, and you're talking 12 million maybe in the United States. You know, now they're getting new populations in Africa and stuff like that, but 17 million people, that's a lot for, you know, for a group, especially something that just started 200 years ago now, but, you know, back then. But here's the thing, it's missionaries. I couldn't get an exact number. So it was, I saw someplace where it was like 60 million or 60,000, one was 80,000, you know, like that. They've got missionaries all over the place. You know, I watched a video, it was called, I forget now what it was called. It was kind of like Here Come the Mormons or something like that. And it was, no, but they put it out. The Mormons put it out. But it was these kids, when they get their notification that they get to be missionaries and they get to go, they send them off to a missionary school for like 3-4 months. I got, and these were in England. I got these, they videotape. It's like, you know, when you see people get their letters for getting a scholarship and they're cheering, and the families are cheering when they get the letter and, you know, opening it up and stuff like that. And they send them. Here's the thing. I looked out, and I just thought about this morning. So I tried to look out. I couldn't find any information. I was trying to figure out how many missionaries the LCMS has. And I couldn't find anything. But I know they're really hurting. We don't have many. You know, they've cut back on a lot of the, you know, missionary programs just because there's no support. You know, I think financially there's no support, and I think that, you know, people have lost their zeal to support something like missions. And I would imagine it's probably like that in most, you know, most Protestant denominations, and that people have just lost that zeal to support missions, to send out missionaries. Now the Mormon missionaries pretty much pay for their own upkeep. Roger.
I'd just like to interject that the English district, their second most important thing is missions.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the PSW or any of the others, but I know the English district, the second most important is of course.
Now, when you say second most important, is that the way that they rank why they're
they rank the teaching of the word of God first,
yeah.
And then missions as second.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is that part of their statement of faith, or is that what they actually do?
As far as I
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's part of their statement of faith.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Well, everybody's got, yeah, we wanted to do missions, but then you find out, are they actually doing, you know, are they actually doing missions and that? And I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. That's, I had that thought this morning, so I tried to Google it and look it up, and I couldn't find anything that talked about LCMS mission, but nothing that said how many missionaries, you know, they are. And I mean, has everybody had contact with Mormon missionaries come to the door, or yeah, I mean, you know, they come 2 by 2. This is one thing I found out from watching that video, Here Come the Mormons, or whatever it was called, is that, you know, young men do 2-year service, and the ladies do 18 months. Okay. But when you're packaged with someone or whatever, called when you're put together with somebody, because they do it. They pick for you. You two guys are going to go to Lake Havasu City. Let's just say you're going to go to Lake Havasu City. These two guys may not even know each other. They have to live with each other 100% of the time for those 2 years. They live together. They're not allowed to one go out and go to the bar and the other guy can't go with them. They don't go to bars, but or at least we don't think they do. But anyway, no, they work like 6 days a week. They have to do all their stuff together. And then on the seventh day, I think it's a Monday, they can wear regular clothes and go out and do their thing. They have to do it together. Surprised there's not more Mormon roommates dead. You know, well, that's a big deal to live with get paired up with a stranger and be able to do that.
It's real hard for them not to do that too, but if they don't get along, it's brought into the attention of their man that's in charge of them, and they investigate it, and then if it doesn't work out, they'll change over party.
It's good to know. Deacon Dennis, do your microphone.
I'm wondering if anybody's ever had a visit from just 2 women missionaries in the Mormon church.
You know, I haven't, but in that video, it seemed like a big thing. It sounded like they had just as many women.
Yeah, we had, when I was the chaplain at the hospital, we had 2 Mormon female missionaries come to the hospital, and they wanted to go from room to room and said, no, we'll call you if we need you. Kind of is what we did, but that's what they were there for, to visit people in their rooms. And talk. We didn't let them do it, but that was the first time I'd met 2 women. 2 young ladies, and on their mission.
No,
We had 2 at our door.
no, you know, they're very personable. They're very outgoing. You know, I may have told, I don't know which groups I ever tell stuff to. My son runs a large pest control company. You know, he's the head guy there. If they can, they hire Mormon missionaries to be their salespeople, because they're not afraid to cold call, you know, to knock on people's doors and say, hey, we've got this service, we're in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So if they can, they hire Mormon missionaries.
Just a humorous comment on that. One of my neighbors, when I lived in La Quinta, California, they were Mormons, and their oldest son went on his first mission journey. They went to Rio in South America, he and another guy, and their second day there, they got robbed. And they looked at him and said, what are you guys? Just him telling the story, but well, we're missionaries for the Mormon church. And the guy said, well, you guys haven't got anything we even want. Go. The guy had an $8 watch and $12 in his pocket. We don't want to even rob you guys, just go. But it was, that was his first experience, his very first one.
Yeah, but just imagine if we had the zeal that they had for missions, you know. Yeah, but imagine if we had the young people that they have. You know, and that is a big thing. I mean, that is a big thing. They have young families. So they've always got a steady supply of young men and women coming up to be in that, you know, in that missionary age group and stuff like that. So they do, you know, they do that. So anyway, I just wanted to, and we'll finish up here. I want to talk about their scriptures. You know, the Mormons use the King James Bible. Okay. If you ever, they've got, oh, Jerry.
I just heard in the news this morning that the state of Utah is proposing to remove the King James Bible from school libraries because of the language that's in.
Oh, yeah, you know, well, you know, I think that was, you know, I don't know, I saw this a week or 2 ago, and I haven't been able to figure out if the people that complained about having the Bible in the school library, if they were just playing on the fact that other people are banning other books. And so they said, well, you look at the, you know, the sexual violence and the regular violence in the Bible, you know, that ranks right up there with these books that we're having, you know, that's people are having removed from the, if I understood it right, it was two young ladies that were doing that. And so what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Okay. Anyway, so they do read the King James Bible. So if you bring if you bring King James Bible out, they'll go with you on that. I've got a note in here. They say, we believe the Bible to be the Word of God as far as it's translated correctly. And that's from their website. So I have a feeling that if there's something that disagrees with them, they go, well, that's a mistranslation, or it's not translated, properly. But they also talk about that they say that there's large swaths of information that's missing out of the Bible that their books fill in the gaps for. But they will do the Bible. The Book of Mormon, like I say, that's their big book. Hey, you go to a Hilton hotel, you'll find that in the bedstand. Because Marriott, okay, yeah, Marriott. Yeah, because they're Mormons, Well, the head guy was Mormon. Probably most of the people aren't Mormons who work there, but they have to do what it says. But you'll find this, in the bedstands. The Book of Mormon, well, what did I write in here? The Book of Mormon takes place in the ancient Americas. And like the Bible was written by Jesus' followers, it teaches his gospel and testifies of him. As you live the teachings found in the Book of Mormon, you can find peace and truth. That's their statement, not mine. Okay. And so what you read about is when, is that Jesus came to the Americas at some ancient time. Sometime after the 10 lost tribes and all that. And he worked with the Native Americans, and so that's what all these stories are in the Book of Mormon. The other book that they have is Doctrines and Covenants. This one is a Doctrines and Covenant and the Pearl of Great Price together. So what do I say there? What am I hearing? Oh. Anyway, so the Doctrine and Covenants is a compilation of revelations, most of which were received by the prophet Joseph for the establishment and governance of the kingdom of God in the latter days. It's a standard work of the church and functions as its open, ever-expanding ecclesiastical constitution. I forgot to mark where I was reading something, but it was one of the revelations where Joseph and his group are coming to it, or whoever it's talking about. I don't know. It's got to be more ancient than that, but they're coming to a town, and God's telling them how He's going to be with them, and He's going to prepare the people for them, and have confidence to go. But these are all supposed to be direct revelations, from Jesus. And then the Pearl of Great Price is doctrinally important for Mormons. It is the source of the teaching of humanity's pre-mortal existence and the plan of salvation championed by Jesus Christ before the world was created. So that's one thing that Mormons believe, is that they believe in the pre-existence, that God made everybody's souls up in heaven. Okay, this is before creation. And now as you get born, I'm going to butcher this. But as you get born, he grabs a soul off the rack and shoots it into the body. Okay, somehow, I don't know how that's supposed to work, like that. But the soul has already been created, and then it gets matched up with the physical, with the physical body. Anyway, and so the Pearl of Great Price is made up of the Book of Moses and the Book of Abraham. And I have a comment in there. And again, these are all from their websites. The Book of Abraham is part of what Mormons call the Pearl of Great Price. So that's the second half. A book accepted by the church as scripture along with the Bible and the Book of Mormon. Church founder Joseph Smith produced it after studying some ancient Egyptian documents church members bought from a traveling showman. I think I added that comment. Okay. No, is see now this we're getting close to where I'm gonna have to close it up. But see, this is the thing, is even the book of Mormon is called into question. There's a book out that was written 30, 40 years ago called Who Really Wrote the Book of Mormon? Okay. And it goes back to where they say really Joseph Smith picked up a copy of a book written by Solomon Spaulding back in New York at a used bookstore, you know, and who had a story similar to this, but it was a novel, and that he adapted it into, you don't know. I mean, again, that could just be, you know, people, you know, tossing dirt and, you know, things like that. But we don't know. But, you know, but that's the thing. A lot of their documents come from, you know, weird sources, you know, where people find it in, you know, different places and that. So I don't know. It's, again, trying to be charitable. You know, I had, oh, you know what? I pulled out the, you know, I had a highlight in my Bible here, but it had to do with the Trinity. I'll find it for the next time. Oh, here. Yeah. So I mean, I got where I marked up their Book of Mormon, so I could debate my Mormon friend. You know, but it's got a thing in here. We'll just end with this. It says he's talking about the restoration. This is in Alma 11:29 to 44, in verse 44 here. If you ever reading the Book of Alma, it says, now this restoration shall come to all, both old and young, both bond and free, both male and female, both the wicked and the righteous, and even there shall not so much as a hair of their heads be lost, but everything shall be restored to its perfect frame as it is now, or in the body, and shall be brought and to be arraigned before the bar of Christ. No, that's how they were this. Before the bar of Christ the Son and God the Father and the Holy Spirit. Okay, but they keep them separate. Okay, but it says, which is one eternal God. I mean, that's in their, you know, that's in their writing, to be judged according to their works, whether they be good or evil. And then there's a footnote in here. I think that's a C, and you come down to C at verse 44, and it gives some references, but it says to God, eternal nature. So they divide nature and essence. They say, well, they're the same in nature, but they're not the same in essence. Well, we would say they're one in essence. You know, it's a purpose and all of that. So, you know, they come close, you know, but again, it's how they don't even know how to, and I shouldn't say they don't know how to, because there's also accusations that they plagiarize a lot of the King James Bible, because that's why it's in that English, you know, that old English. So anyway, so that's the start. So we'll get into the, well, let me ask this. Do you want to continue this next week, since we're having a business meeting and it'll be a short time, or should we just save it for the July meeting?
Continue.
You want to continue? Okay. So I have enough to, you know, to do that. But here's the thing, is as we get into their, what I call their variant teaching, they would say it's our variant teaching. But what I say about their variant teaching, what you need to pick up on is when we say they believe that, like they'll say, God was once a man, just like us, and he got glorified up into his godhood. And that's what's going to happen to you if you're faithful Mormons, is that we have to know what we believe about that. You know, not just say, well, that can't be right, they must be wrong. Why are they wrong? You know, and if, what is it, Psalm 82, it says, you know, you have been called gods. And then Jesus requotes that later on in the, oh, wait a minute, you know, maybe that is. So what were we going to say, Dennis?
Yeah, just another little oddity. We're kind of winding down on this, but I had the bishop of the Mormon church, the bishop of the Mormon church in Indio, California, which was a rather large church, Mormon church, was one of my detectives. And I'd contacted him and asked him to come into the jail and talk to a couple of people there who claimed to be Mormons, and he'd like to talk to a Mormon minister. And he said, "We don't have any Mormons in jail." And I said, "Well, how can that be?" And he said, "Well, when they go in, if we get the information, we just take their name off the roll. There are no Mormons in
We
jail."
turn the body around, so it looks like they're coming instead of going.
So he, but you never, but you know, you go to a jail, and I've been a chaplain here at the police department for many years.
Yeah,
There are no Mormon chaplains,
yeah.
period. There just aren't any. Because they don't admit that they're, well, they just take them off the roll.
They are really, so I'm gonna turn off the recording right now.